The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. Today, this episode, we're looking right around Independence Day here in the United States, 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. Quick shout out, thank you to all the troops, everyone who's served in the name of defending this country and trying to do what is right by the people of this country. Thank you for your service. I don't think you guys hear it enough. I respect you. I think the people pulling the strings and running this government are fucking idiots, but I respect the soldiers and the people who served. Thank you for your service. Happy Independence Day. And good on ya. But to the rest of the world and everyone else who is listening to the show for whatever reason, if you're not in the U.S., yay for us. Good on you for listening. Thank you. To anyone who is a first-time listener to the show, welcome. To anybody who is a long-time listener, this is going to kind of at least somewhat rehash stuff I've spoken about before, where I stand on certain things. Bear with me if you keep coming back. Apparently you like hearing what I have to say, so thank you very much for listening. Now, the thing that has been rolling around in my head these last couple of days with the celebration of the anniversary of our Declaration of Independence in the United States, there was a lot of really good tenets put into place with the founding of this country, a lot of great principles, a lot of great ideas about freedom and independence and the ability to live your best life on your terms. Now, granted, the things that these great concepts were not in any way, shape, or form uniformly applied to humanity. They were not including women. They were not including people of color. They were not aimed at anyone that was not basically a rich wasp, somebody who had land and holdings and happened to be white and Protestant. Not even white and Christian, white and Protestant specifically. If you were a Catholic, you had no fucking business being in this country at the time it was founded. You were supposed to be over there kissing the Pope's ass over in Europe. So the Founding Fathers had some wonderful ideas, and particularly when it came to keeping government small and out of everyone's fucking business. The problem is they had a really fucked up definition of what qualified as a person. And thankfully, we've gotten past that to a certain extent. I mean, granted, there's still some pockets of, cousin fucking assholes out there who seem to think that your complexion determines your worth as a human being. Now, anyone who has listened on a regular basis knows I don't cotton to that shit. I don't judge a person based on stuff they have no control over. I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you're in love with, as long as you're not abusing somebody, hurting somebody, forcing yourself on somebody, or doing anything with a minor. I'm a firm believer that the best way to deal with pedophilia is with a wood chipper. So if you got a problem with that, you might as well go right now. But that's really not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the concepts of freedom and rights and responsibilities in the context of we need to operate under the assumption that all people are created equal. And by equal, I don't necessarily mean every single person has the same worth, because honestly, I don't believe that. There are some real worthless sacks of shit out there. I'm not saying everyone even has the same potential, although I think as small children, before we are beaten down, broken, and conditioned by circumstance, life in general, and the system at whole, we all have so much potential that is just unfulfilled. I think people need to be encouraged. People need to be nurtured. People need to be grown. I don't think we need to be judging people based on petty shit they have no control over. And I'm not going to try and harp on that point too much, but I really want to make it clear as to what I'm saying as to how things apply to people. Now, a lot of people know I have a real problem with the self-proclaimed social justice warrior set, the cancel culture assholes, the ones who seem to think that their way is the right way, but the only reason it's not being the way things naturally are occurring is because all these evil, horrible, super conservative people that are forcing their beliefs on everybody. The problem with that stance is the super ultra liberal people who want to force all their beliefs on everyone, because they're guilty of the same shit that the mistakes that were made by the founding fathers of the United States of America. They are viewing one set of people as a subset, as not being important, as not being relevant, because rather than using physical characteristics to make their criteria, they are using criteria that are set by belief structure. They don't agree with what we think is right and acceptable. Therefore, they don't have the right to have freedoms and rights and responsibilities because they're not acknowledging what we want. Clamoring for equality is one thing. Trying to force your beliefs down someone else's throat is an entirely different matter. Equality would be, you're allowed to believe what you want to believe, I'm allowed to believe what I want to believe, and if you don't believe what I believe, I can stay the fuck away from you and not deal with you because your beliefs don't impact my life. The problem is neither side is willing to actually take that stance. Both sides seem to want to think that their way is right and everyone else has to follow it. There's no compromise. There's no more meeting in the middle. It's a matter of extremism that is fostered and put into place by the power structure that exists in this country. Because at the end of the day, if you look at all the so-called leaders in this country, all the elected officials, all the government leeches that are sponging off the blood, sweat, and tears of society at large, they fan these divisional flames. They encourage their, quote unquote, their supporters. These assholes all eat in the same cafeteria. It's not like they are going out to different branches of the world. They all eat at the same fucking table. And they all stand to gain by the division of the masses, by flaming these fights against each other so they can beat their chest and rend their clothes and pull their hair and say, we're trying so hard to get you what you want, but it's the other evil bastards that are stopping it. And if you listen to the rhetoric, it's the same bullshit from both sides of the aisle. It's the same load of crap that is being fed to you, just with a different set of spices. One side's dipping it in chocolate and honey, the other side's dipping it in cayenne pepper and fucking smoked paprika. Two different flavor profiles, same bullshit underneath. And people eat it up. People jump on board of it. They think they're accomplishing something. They think they're doing good because they think if they get enough X, Y, and Z, they're going to be able to force their beliefs down everybody else's throats. Not just be allowed to have their beliefs to themselves, but everybody's going to get on board. Everybody's going to do it because we said they have to. It's the same hypocritical shit they're accusing the other side of doing to them. But it's okay if they do it to everybody else. It's a lot of bullshit coming out of both sides with the same end result. One group of people is shit on because the other group of people needs to be elevated. Now, one side feels like they're doing it because, well, we're inclusive. We're trying to lift everybody up to believe what we believe. And the other side is saying, well, what we believe is morally right and we want everybody to believe it because we're going to save their souls or we're going to save their whatever bullshit it is. But at the end of the day, it's all bullshit because it's all about forcing other people to do what you want. And this has become, the division has been there for generations. It's not like politicians manipulating people and pulling at heartstrings and emotional issues and driving division is a new concept. Scapegoats have been around for fucking ever. I mean, you go back to the world wars and entire ethnic groups were blamed for shit. You go back to the Civil War and that was a war for fucking economics. It was not about liberty or freedom for the shit on people that, oh, well, we're going to make the slaves free. And that's history repainting what the fucking truth was. It was about economics and it was about control. And yeah, there were a lot of people out there saying we need to do this because it's the right thing to do. But at the end of the day, the freed slaves weren't all of a sudden treated as equals by the people, even the ones who were fighting to free them. It's like, well, hey, congratulations, you're free now. Oh no, you can't live in my neighborhood. You can't have the same shit. You can't eat from the same table I'm eating at. But you're free to go get your own table. Oh, no, we're not going to help you. But you can go get a table now. The deck's stacked against you. You don't have any sort of assets to start with, but you're free, and that's what counts. And to a certain extent, being free to make your own fate is what counts, but not in that context. That was not an equal footing. That was not a leg up. That was a base acknowledgement that, hey, you're people too. So I'm not tooting the horn of anybody that was involved in that in any way, shape, or form, other than the ones who were doing it for the right reasons. But that was also way the fuck before I was born, so I can't actually base any direct information on that, because things are whitewashed, things are cleaned up, they're sanitized, they're sterilized, they're presented, and we really aren't even teaching history anymore. And history has never been an accurate, factual representation of what happened, contrary to what every organization out there wants you to believe. Every information we have ever been fed is censored and cleaned and sterilized and adjusted to fit a certain mold and to fit a certain belief structure, and it's to service the people who are feeding it to you. If you don't believe me, stop and look at how school curriculums have changed over the years, how we've stopped teaching civics and stopped teaching history in the context of this is what happened and this is why it happened and this is how it was handled, and it's become more like, well, this is what happened and this is how you should feel about it. It's not a presentation of facts, it's loading of propaganda. Realistically, the amount of money that is being spent on doing this propagandizing, this manipulation, whether it's under the guise of we're doing this to improve we're making you feel better, we're doing social standings for all people, and this is that and the other, and you don't look at the actual effects of how the information is being presented. We've completely removed the idea of teaching critical and analytical thought in a curriculum. But you have to be in college before you can even start to think about taking philosophy classes or anything else that teaches you how to think as opposed to what to think. There was a time when we were making progress as a species and we were heading towards a better place when it was coached by teaching our youth how to think critically, how to behave critically, how to be analytical. And then at some point it became about feelings, and it became about, instead of teaching people how to think, we're going to tell them what to think. And since we're doing it in a way that is going to make people feel good, and it's going to make people feel justified, or more commonly, you give people just enough information to look at something and feel outrage and feel anger, and it's all about manipulation. And I'm not trying to sound like the tinfoil hat crowd. I'm not super deep conspiracy, but I am a fan of critical thinking. I am a fan of using your mind, using the faculties that at one point were trained and sharpened and honed and used as tools. That's how we get into ages of enlightenment and how we make massive jumps of progress and social and science and artistic venues. It's not through conformity. It's not through going along based on your feels and how I learned this little blurb of information and it makes me feel X, Y, and Z. It's not by churning back every thought that is ever fed to you saying, well, this is what's right and this is how things are supposed to be because this is what I was told they were supposed to be. The periods of enlightenment, ages of progress, are always spawned by creative and rational and critical thinking. It's not by following the herd. It's not by doing what you are told is right. It's not by being a conformist. It's not by following what they say is correct or proper. And at some point, somebody realized we're basically arming the people with the tools they're going to need to realize they don't fucking need us. That we are steering and manipulating and controlling them. So let's change the curriculum. Let's make education mandatory through our structure and through our system so people have to believe. And as much as I hate to point out that it's happening in America, that's always something. When I was a kid, they were saying, oh, well, you go to them communist countries, they're indoctrinating their people, and you can't go to school and learn the truth because they control the news and they control the story and they control the narrative, and people believe terrible things about the rest of the world because that's what we're feeding them. And the thing is, it's happening here too. And it's happening because it works. You go to school, you spend anywhere from, if you're like an accelerated learning kid, you could get out in maybe 9 or 10 years, 13, 14 years, depending on how swift you are on the uptake and if you have to retake any grades. And they don't teach you life skills anymore. They don't teach you critical thinking. They don't teach you how to get ahead. You don't have any real useful information in your head. They don't even teach you how to balance your checkbook anymore, or how to do the basic survival skills you need to get out on your own and live in the real world as an adult. You don't know about investment. You don't know about retirement. You don't know about credit. You know how many people in their early 20s have no fucking idea how credit works and what your credit score actually means? And these are how we're sending people out into the world. And if we're sending these people who don't know how to function out into the world and saying, congratulations, you're now an adult, go get it, you got to wonder why that is. The system is not put in place because somehow that makes things better for us. No, it makes things better for the people who are controlling things. There's a reason why the ultra-rich and the elite do not go through the same educational system as John Q. friggin' Public. It's not because, it's just because we're rich and we need to stay together, although that is their mentality of it. If the rest of us were critical and looked at it, we would probably say, how come we're not learning the same shit the rich kids are learning? It's because they can afford to learn what they actually need to know. And everybody who's getting their education on the dole from the government is going to learn what is ever beneficial to the one who's paying for it. When you're paying to put your kid through school and you're sending them off to get the best education money can buy, you're doing that to enhance your legacy and to keep your family in power. And you can afford to do it because you have the money to pay for it. When your education and your life and your livelihood is being paid for by somebody else, they're not paying for it with your best interest in mind. They're paying for it with their best interest in mind. The indoctrination is real. And the thing is, too, the people who want to claim they're trying to change the world on either side of the aisle, either set of ass clowns who's saying this is what we need to do and this is what we need to get back to, they are so easily steered and misdirected because they're being told by whichever flavor of Kool-Aid they've chosen to drink, well, this is what's right and this is what we have to stand for, without ever questioning why it is that only one way can be correct, why it is that they have to stand for this or else some horrible, terrible thing's going to happen. And the major difference is, if you want to look at things from a critical standpoint, you want to look at trying to make the world an actual better place instead of your definition of a better place. To make it better for everyone, what we really have to start pushing for, what we have to start calling for, is not legislate my beliefs into right. What we have to start calling for is give me the right to have my beliefs and you can have yours. What's fair for me is fair for you. Fair is a real simple fucking concept. Fair is what we used to teach each other in every setting from church to school to general living with your family, being around your siblings or your cousins or your aunts or your uncles, and being told, well, it's what's fair. You and you get the same. That's fair. And we got away from that somehow. Everybody seems to think that it's not about fair. Now everyone seems to think fair is I get what I want and you get to have what I want as well. No, fair would be you can do what you want, I can do what I want, and we'll agree to leave each other the fuck alone. It's really not a complicated concept. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Yeah, great terms, great ideas. Amazing in concept. Application, not so much. We have a problem with realizing our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness stops being a right when it starts infringes upon the said pursuits for other people. It's just not the way it's supposed to fucking work. And yeah, the old white guys in powdered wigs had a pretty fucked up definition of what constituted a person when they were writing down the precepts. But if you take and broaden your definition of what a human being actually is and who counts as a person, we're all fucking people. That's who counts as a person, everybody. So those original tenets, those original ideas, the right to believe what you want to believe, the right to live your best life, should be universal. It should be within the confines of your capabilities. You do the best you can by you as long as you're not hurting anybody else. You be the best person you can be. You love with all your heart. You give everything you can. And you be great. You take that opportunity. You capitalize on that chance. You be amazing. you be your best self. Regardless of who you are, you have the right to be fucking amazing. And that's something that somewhere along the lines we lost, because when you're telling everybody to live up to their potential, and when you're telling everybody they can be amazing, that also goes with the fact that not everybody's going to perform to the same level. And therein lies another problem with the concept. I've talked about it before, how I have a problem with the participation trophy mindset. Because not everybody is a fucking winner. Not everybody is going to achieve the same goals and the same accomplishments when given the same opportunities. That's what equality is about. Equality is about all having the same opportunities, not everyone getting the same fucking results. Some people are just better at certain things than other people. Some people cannot perform at the same rate. That does not mean we hamper the people who can perform at a higher level. We allow them to perform and be their best selves. You don't tell them not to do good because somebody else can't do good. That's not how equality works. That's not how fairness works. That's not allowing people to be their best selves. That is hampering and slowing down innovation and creation and accomplishment and achievement because you're trying to spare the feelings of someone who, whether they like it or not, simply can't perform at the same level. It's telling people that mediocrity is okay. It's telling people that we don't need to be great. We don't need to achieve. We don't need to be fantastic. Because everybody's special. Everybody's equal when everybody's as... Instead of saying we can all be as good as the best, we're saying nobody can be better than the worst. And that is one of the reasons why innovation is dying. That's one of the reasons why the world is going to shit. We are technologically as advanced as we've ever been able to prove we've been. I mean, if you're into, depending on what channels you're watching on the Discovery Channel at night or whatever, and what you believe, there may have been a more advanced civilization here than us, and they either went away or blew themselves the fuck up or are at the bottom of the ocean living in the Marianas Trench. Who knows? I don't know where the conspiracy theory people put this super advanced civilization somehow buggered off and is no longer with us, whether they blew themselves up because they couldn't handle socially all the advancements that the scientific community accomplished, or if they just went away because people are dumb and don't need that shit around. Who knows? Point being, look at nature. Survival of the fittest, herd mentality. The old, the weak, and the infirm are picked off by predators. And that allows the overall average of the group to grow and become stronger and better and perform better. When you're giving the stragglers the rights to set the terms for where they're going, everything is slowed down. That's how the law of averages works. When you're figuring in, keeping in the lowest factors, the entire whole comes down. So we need to stop with this self-defeating bullshit of saying everybody's as good as the least good. Because instead of focusing on everybody being as good as the least good, how about we focus on finding what the least good person is actually better at? Instead of saying, oh, it's okay, little Johnny, you can't play soccer, so we're going to take the team that's kicking your team's ass, but we're going to start cutting their players until it's fair again. And when we're back to the scores tied because, they got a goal, so they have to give up a player. So now until we get a goal, we have more players than they do. Because, believe it or not, that is some dumb shit that has actually happened in children's sporting events. If you get too much of a lead, you're penalized players. If you do too well, to spare the other team's feelings, you have to be hampered and made less than you are performing at. We no longer encourage peak performance and at the same time, while we do want to celebrate people who accomplish and who achieve things, and we still send athletes to the Olympics and everything, when it comes to the day-to-day coping and dealing with being as good as you can be, instead of teaching people to accept... I'm not saying to accept limitations because I don't believe there should be limitations, but to accept what you are capable of doing. Yeah, don't beat yourself up because you're not as good as little Johnny from down the street, because for whatever reason, little Johnny has the physicality to do this thing. That doesn't mean you're not good at something else. We need to teach people to find and embrace and be proud of what they are good at, not to make the people who are good at something someone else isn't good at feel shitty about it. We all have different strengths. We all have different weaknesses. We need to play to our strengths. We need to be good at what we're good at, because then you're good at something you're good at, you become great. This everyone needs to be treated equally shit is a loser mentality, and fostering and encouraging this mentality is creating a society of fucking losers. And that's as good a spot as I need to pause to insert a ad, and we'll be back in a couple minutes, and I will wrap up this episode.
It's time to feel the rage. Join us on Film Rage, where we talk movies, current releases, coming attractions, streaming, and classic films as well. Directors and actors beware, as you cannot hide from the rage. My name is Bryce, and I'm part of the Film Rage crew, which also includes Jim.
Hey.
And Murray.
Yo.
Why is it you always talk all the time? I can't understand why your voice is so...
This is the Merman, the voice of reason. These two can't agree on anything most of the time. Some movies are mondo, some are just suck. Every week something is going to make us rage. Join us every Wednesday and
feel the rage.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that little break in the rambling. And so, yeah, the whole point of this tear is we've got all these people. There are a lot of systemized and institutionalized problems in this country. The country was a great concept built on flawed thinking. And the problem is, rather than, we've gotten to the point where at least where we've acknowledged that a lot of that thinking is flawed. Treating people as less than a person because of their skin color or where they were born or anything else in terms of shit that is beyond someone's personal control is a crock. It's not a good mentality. It's not a winning mindset. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not just. There's so many things that are wrong with that kind of petty bullshit. At the same time, the people who are the most vocal about these things are unfortunately every bit as petty and unforgiving and judgmental as the people who had this original fucked up concept in the first place. We have a great concept of people being able to accomplish anything regardless of where they came from. There was a time when it was a big thing where people used to say, anybody can be president in this country. The problem is, in this country recently, we've proven that anyone can be president regardless of whether or not they fucking should. And I'm not going to go off on that particular tear, but I just want to reiterate a point real quick, as long as this is where my mind is at, that is something that's true that we have forgotten. The people that are most likely to go grasping for that kind of power are the ones least worthy of it. People who are actively going out and spending literally millions and millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, trying to get into that position, really probably shouldn't be trusted with anything more dangerous than a rubber band and a paperclip. Not control of the entire fucking country. And just as a reminder, the office of the president is not the unilateral god of this country. They are not the leader. They are not the unquestioned authority. They are the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States of America. Their primary job is to control the arm, the muscle of this country. And the laws and the rules and the leadership is supposed to be coming from the Congress, from the legislative branch, and then the judicial branch is supposed to be like the country's conscience that interprets the laws and says, this is why this is right or wrong. This is what's fair. Now, the entire system is broken at this point because people seem to think the president has all the fucking power. Nobody holds the assholes in Congress accountable. And for some reason, judges are allowed to be on the Supreme Court until they're worm food. And I understand respecting experience and elders and wisdom and the knowledge that is gained from a life of experience. But at the same time, if you're 90 fucking years old, you've got no rights trying to make decisions that impact people literally a quarter of your age or less. So you're not going to, be forward thinking. You're old, you're fucked. When you hit retirement age, you should be taken out of the system. Period. Regardless, across the board. There should not be 75-year-old fucking senators. There should not be 85, 90-year-old Supreme Court justices. Every one of those motherfuckers should be living their best life, wandering off into the golden years like every normal human being is expected to do. The president shouldn't be 70 fucking years old. Nobody that old should be in office. It's not that I'm ageist, it's that at a certain point, it has been biologically proven that your functions slow down, your capacities diminish, and you are not performing at peak levels. It's stupid. And it was never meant for this to be set up that way. It was meant where you come, you did your public service, and then you went back to your farm or wherever the fuck you were living prior to getting into politics to go back to doing life. Not be a lifer in this fucking job, sucking at the fucking community tit and being a parasite. So somewhere along the lines, we lost our way. And there's a lot of people out there that seem to think they've grasped that concept. They think they have figured out what's wrong with this country. It was founded by a bunch of aristocratic white males, and that's the problem. They all owned slaves, and they all owned land, and they all owned this and that. That's not the problem. I mean, yeah, it's part of the problem. But the problem is, everyone who seems to think they've got that figured out also seems to think that their particular set of values is what needs to be legislated and forced on everybody else. That's not what this country is about. It's not about forcing your beliefs on someone else. It's about being allowed to have your beliefs and letting other people have theirs. This country is intended for freedom and balance, and it is supposed to be forward-thinking. It is supposed to be an ideal that is what humanity should be striving for. And instead you've got people trying to say, well, this is all systemic injustice. And instead of saying the system's broken and we need to replace it, they're saying we need to put our system in place instead so we have our systemic justice. And at the same time, it will still be discriminatory, it will still be biased, it will still be prejudiced, it will still punish certain people for not falling in line with what that system wants in place. We need to be better. We need to do better. This is supposed to be the land of opportunity. This is supposed to be the land where we're driving and leading the world into the future. And instead, we can't stop fighting each other long enough to make any real progress. And the progress that is happening never comes from somebody who's worried about being a conformist. It never comes from somebody who's towing the line or doing what society or anybody else says they should be. All the major innovations that we have, all the technology that we have at our fingertips, we literally have the world at our fingertips. 98% of the people in this country are walking around with some sort of smart device in their pocket that gives them access to all of the knowledge that is publicly available on the planet. You don't even have to speak the language anymore because there's stuff out there that will translate foreign languages into your native tongue. Available at your fingertips. And we're over here busy picking fights with each other because we can't all get on board with basic concepts of humans are humans, people are people. We all have feelings and rights and beliefs that should be a simple matter of, if we don't agree with each other, we don't have to force our beliefs on each other. We can say, you believe what you believe, now fuck off and leave me alone. It's really not a hard concept, and I don't understand why so many people have such a hard time getting it through their fucking heads that if you don't like somebody, you don't have to force them to be somebody you do like. All you got to do is stay the fuck away from them. You'll be a lot happier if you're not constantly worrying about what's going on in everybody else's life and focus on what's going on in yours. And if we really want to start getting the human race back to making some progress, if we ever want to get to Star Trek levels or any of this other shit where we're actually going to other planets instead of having one or two rich guys trying to bail on the planet because this place is fucked, and actually just start expanding and growing and thriving as a species again, we've got to get out of this victim bullshit loser mentality that we've all decided is how the world's supposed to work. We need to stop saying mediocrity is okay. We need to stop saying excellence is something that is a freak case and start to realize we can all be excellent if we try and focus on what we are excellent at. We can be amazing if we are focused on what we are capable of, instead of saying these are freaks instances. How about we say we can all do this in something? We don't all have to do it in the same thing, but we can all be fucking amazing. We can all change the world in our own way if we just embrace the potential, if we try and be great instead of trying to make everybody the same. And, for now, I guess thanks for listening, and that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. If you liked what you heard, leave a review, give us a follow, give me some feedback. And if you didn't like what you heard, leave a review, give me a follow, give me some feedback. I'll try and fix it. Check us out on all the social media platforms at I Had to Say It Podcast is the trigger for all that stuff, for the search term. And if you want, check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. There's links to people that have been involved with the program, things I've talked about. There are some links available for some merch that we're working on, and there are ways to contact us there as well. And thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.